Hi, I'm Vince Rocca. I'm the Chief Information Officer with Digital Hands. So ransomware has really ramped up over the past several years, and what's changed is that the methods and the tools that used to be effective at preventing it from infiltrating organizations are proving to be less and less effective. So for example, Microsoft Office 365 several years ago was quite effective at preventing ransomware, but the bad guys have figured out that just by spending $35, they can get a full access account and they can test away and figure out methods to bypass Microsoft's protections. And because of that, many organizations find that their protection has dropped significantly over the past few years. So you can't just rely on the tools that are provided. You have to augment, and more importantly, you have to monitor. And so ransomware has managed to infiltrate and lock up organizations, small and large. And the primary ways that it finds its way into organizations is through email and or remote access connections, specifically remote desktop protocol, open servers that are on the internet. And so I want to talk to you about ways that you can easily protect against ransomware. So first of all, one method that is extremely important, matter of fact, it is the catch-all for all different methods that ransomware infects organizations, is to make sure that your backup is robust. And number two, that backup must be encrypted or protected in some way, so that if ransomware does hit and it encrypts your files and your environment, that your actual backups are protected and you can access them so that you can restore your organization. Now, that's very, very reactive. I want to talk to you about some proactive measures that you can take. And so from an email perspective, there are some tools that the standards bodies have put out. And specifically, there is something called SPF, or Sender Policy Framework, that causes emails to go through checks to make sure that they're coming from legitimate sources. And then there's a couple of other solutions. One's called DKIM, DKIM, and DMARC. And those three items being implemented on your incoming email will filter out the easy, low-hanging fruit as far as ransomware trying to attack your organization. It's very, very important also to augment Microsoft's protection if you're using Office 365 or Gmail, the Gmail suite, or any of the other solutions out there, but Gmail and Office 365 are the big ones. And so having a security gateway, an email gateway that inspects all of your email before it is delivered to your users' inboxes is the greatest thing that you can have to prevent email from making it to a user's inbox and a user unsuspectingly clicking on it. One of the tools that's out there will actually sandbox an email and bring it off to a protected environment and detonate it and look for malware, look for that ransomware, and if it finds it, it will immediately stop the delivery of that email before it makes it to the individual's inbox. And having this in place is huge, but having a technology that's in place that also uses advanced behavioral and machine learning and artificial intelligence to detect unusual behaviors and anomalies in protocols and things that are just abnormal or things that are happening for the very first time. So for example, hackers like to register domain names, and within a few hours of registering those domain names, they start firing off emails with ransomware. Well, if you have a solution that will check to see when a particular domain name was registered, and you see that was just registered a few hours ago, that is an immediate flag to isolate and sandbox that email and prevent it from being delivered to an end user. So really, when you're looking at your email security gateways, it's very, very important that you make sure that they're not just a single layer of checking, that yes, they're checking the SPF and the DKIM and the DMARC, but they're looking for these behavioral abnormalities. Is it first time domain? Is it first time email from a user? And there's many other checks that they do. The next thing is from a remote desktop protocol perspective. There's a whole lot of these servers that are just placed on the internet to provide remote access into organizations. And the hackers know that this is an ideal way to get in, because all they have to do is access one PC in the environment and they've got access to the entire network. So we highly recommend that these servers are not placed on the wide open internet without a reverse proxy in place, and more importantly, that they're not open to every single internet address out on the internet, that they're locked down to only known good sources of IP addresses. And then second of all, which is so important, is to implement multi-factor authentication on those connections. So in other words, not just one password protects the access, because that one password gets compromised and the entire organization is exposed. So by putting multi-factor authentication in place, it will require not only a password, something that you know, but something that you have. It could be a hardware key, or something that you are, your fingerprint, or an eye scan, or a face scan. And so those two items add an additional layer. The other thing to be aware of is that where in the actual connection process that additional layer of authentication is placed is incredibly important, because if it happens after the connection is established, it's too late. They've already accessed the first layer of your environment and they can horizontally move in your environment. So don't allow the connection to the environment unless that second factor or that third factor is verified.